All right, everyone. Ding, ding, ding. We are back in full mother effing effect. And you know why? Because this is Ringside's very own Corner Confessions. And we are back shooting today from Hype Plus Studios, located right here in the heart of Castleberry, Atlanta. And if you don't know by now, I am Trey Amazing, your favorite part-time stripper, part-time pastor, but full-time dating commentator. And today we have a very special returning guest. She is cocky as well as kinky. She is a well-known professional in the ancient and seductive art of kink, a true fetish aficionado, and a boss dominatrix on the rise here in ATL. With her eyes on the crown, she's coming for the throne. Ladies and gentlemen, her momentum is steadily rising. Ringside, rise up and salute the beautifully badass, cocky Kitty. Welcome back.
What is up? It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. What you been up to?
I've been up to, I'm always up to something. So this time, and I'm back on the rise. Not on the rise, back on the rise. I've been gone for a minute, but it's okay. I had to get some refresher and learn some things. But now, so aside from doing my own thing and still playing kinky, I am working with couples because I've had I've always got I ain't gonna say I bring a little trouble, but a couple wives have called me.
A little trouble ain't so bad.
Right, a couple of wives have called me, so I had to bring them on in.
Okay. But you know what? Before we delve too deep, I'm remiss because you didn't come alone. You brought a guest, right?
Oh, it's my favorite friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, back in effect, we got Cherry in the building. Indeed. Okay. So check it. We're talking about kink, and from what I hear, word on the street is you know a little something about kink. You work with couples. I'm sure you work with individuals. But today we want to talk about someone trying to introduce kink into a vanilla relationship. A vanilla relationship. A couple. Been doing missionary for 10 years or whatever, and not a lot of variety, not a lot of whatever. And they're, I hate to say the phrase spice things up because that's so cliche, but for the sake of this topic, we're going to say they're trying to add some spice, some cayenne, some paprika, but they don't know how. How do you talk to your spouse, regardless if you're the husband or wife, and say, I want to try something a little different, a little unorthodox, but I don't know how to broach that conversation. How would you advise someone who's been in a long-term committed but hella vanilla relationship or marriage? How would you advise someone on how to start that conversation with a partner?
It's all about for me. It's all about foreplay. A lot of people forget foreplay, or a lot of people think that foreplay is just supposed to be like right then when we get in the bedroom, and a lot of people forget that build up. So, like, let's say in the morning you getting ready for work, right? And y'all just kind of playing. Let's say you brushing your teeth, right? Most people got one of those vibrating toothbrushes, right? You just hit that little button and a little vibration in your mouth. Well, just real quickly, just like run it down their butt.
Run it down? Oh, I thought you were about to say the other one.
Run it around the nipple or something like that. A little flirt, a little play.
She went straight for the butt.
You know what I'm saying? But just people don't like to tease or don't really have time to tease, and just taking that minute and just doing the little things that are going to build up. So it's finding those little things in the household, those little sensations, like that vibration. I know my ladies understand about the vibration.
Okay. So, when you're fighting cavities, that's the time to get a little kink in.
Push the button.
Push the button. Oh my God. How many times have we heard that today? Push the button. But, so, you may have a situation where if it's a man, if it's the boyfriend or husband, he may think, okay, I want to try this, but I don't want her to think I swing a different way, or, I'm into some too freaky or too weird shit, but I just want to heighten what we already got. How do you help men kind of navigate that conversation to where they feel comfortable, but they want to, they don't want their woman looking at them sideways?
Ooh, Now, when I was down, when I were at the state that I was in, I ain't gonna call their names.
We ain't gonna say it.
We ain't gonna say it. We know where it is. We know where it was.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I had that question so much because there's such this stigma of gay homosexuality, and it's just like, do y'all not understand exactly what that means? Mm-hmm. Like, and a lot of women don't seem to realize there is a button back there. So, but you know, because of the reproductive organs, that's a whole nother conversation, right? Of how the anatomy works. But a lot of women don't fully understand, and it's really something that's just starting to kind of come out, understanding that men have a button back there. And it's like how you get to that button, how you're able to touch that button, you know, and then too, like I've had a couple of discoveries where it's like, ooh, darling, before I can continue, you need to go see a doctor. You know what I'm saying? But
Saving lives.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, because along with breast, you know, checking breast examinations and things like that, men have the things that they need to cover as well. And a part of being kinky and a part of that foreplay is really taking your time and exploring your partner's body. You get a feel for, something's going on, something's not right. Like, I'm sure for the fellas out there that have, like, eaten some kitty cat and then all of a sudden that flavor changed and it's like, who else is in there?
Who else is in there?
Right. You know what I mean? So it's taking that time to explore your partner's body, and that kind of makes it part of the kinky, but part of the caring as well. Mm-hmm. But I think for a lot of men, I just tell them, just ask her to just kind of go underneath the balls to start.
Go and just lift up the balls.
Just lift up the balls. When they get nice and tight, he's about to just go on up in there and just get right up in that little perineum or the taint.
Okay, no.
And
all
just,
right.
you know, working that little area right there. But a big thing too, the biggest part is that you have to learn how to communicate with your partner.
Communication is very big. I mean, that word comes up in a majority of my interviews on this channel. So no, I agree with you 1,001%. Communication, you're going to have to make what you want well known and, you know, take it slow. But I want to, you know, talk about something, you know, you mentioned the word stigma, and, you know, in conversations on social media and, you know, other avenues, you know, they talk about, particularly with black women, how there is a certain stigma about, you know, being too freaky or you know, this stereotype of black women compared to women of other races, how black women tend to be the most prudish or the most conservative when it comes to sexuality, trying new things, you know, kink. You've heard the phrase, you know, that's white people shit. How do you address that? Because, you know, the longer I've been in this genre, I keep hearing that. I keep hearing, you know, I've heard black women say what starts from, you know, being in the church and being, you know, shamed, you know, to be into certain things and made to feel like, well, something is wrong with you if you're not, you know, straight up meat and potatoes, missionary, you know, that's it. And so I've heard women talk about, heard black women say that it comes with a sense of guilt and shame if they, you know, if they express themselves too much or if they're too uninhibited sexually. How do you, you know, if you're talking with a client who's a black woman, how do you have that conversation, or how do you help assuage those concerns?
In all honesty, first and foremost, keep your shit off of social media. Everybody ain't got to know, because if you want, and I get it, because when I first started getting into it, and I'm still growing and getting comfortable in who I am and what I am and what exactly that I like to do. That's kind of why I'm here with you. But it's really not giving a fuck about what anybody else says. This is this time when we're supposed to find our happiness and grow into it. And when you're able to have a partner that you can communicate, and not all communication has to be verbal, you know, but when you have someone, but I do understand that stigma and where it comes from and the judgment, and that is a whole nother conversation about the different stereotypes, especially when it comes to black women and sex, and how, like, oh, well, black men are on the DL if they want it, and if they want their booty poked, or like, you know what I'm saying, or black women, or what was it, we went and saw Sinners last night and there was a scene in there.
We just came back from seeing it.
Woo, you know about the ice cream,
the
button.
When you said the button, I'm like, okay, how many times am I gonna hear that today? The button.
Remember when he said he found the button? It was like that time when, you know, like, it's like, oh man, I guess, yeah, they did just kind of start discovering it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will admit, like, being in this industry, you know, doing what I do, white people have just, we know that from the jump. White people are just like, well, shit, I'm going to try it. Let's go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, but black people, we've always had, we have to portray, we have to do, we have to be. And it's still this ingrained mentality of, honestly, this Jim Crow, this stereotype of who we're supposed to be, how we're not supposed to have. Like, I've been noticing a lot of people been mad at me because I'm just fucking happy. Black women are supposed to be angry and everything else, but girlfriend had that button pushed and then just melted all over the place. I am feeling so fucking happy. Why am I mad at that? You know what I'm saying? So there's this guilt too with finding this happiness and being able to relax in it, being able to want to explore things that I think that we as black women really have like a little trouble with working around. But I honestly want to say it starts with keeping your business off of fucking social media for people to talk about you and judge you because they're not educated with the situation.
One time, I like that. No, I mean, that would solve, honestly, not just in this topic, but that would solve a lot of our problems if people would just keep their shit off social media.
Right.
But, you know, one thing that I've heard, and it's been a while, is one of my admins said this a long time ago, the whole Madonna whore complex. And I've only, you know, briefly read the definition of that, but, you know, that the instance where you have couples where, you know, maybe the man wants to, you know, go a little further and he has a woman who may be open to it, but it's that whole, but she's my wife and, you know, I don't want to defile her. You know, it may be something, look, I really want to try this, but I would prefer to try this with a woman that I don't care about. But I have, you know, it's like you have a wife or you have a girlfriend who, like, you know, maybe shouting from the rafters like, hey, I'm down with this. But that husband is like, but I love you and, you know, this is kind of dirty. How do you talk a man off the ledge, you know, when that comes up? Because
role play.
You know, foreplay. Go back to
role play.
Oh, role play.
I love it when men tell me that. I do, like, especially like when I have them in like in an awkward position and they're asking me, how do I introduce this kind of stuff to my wife? Role play. Why don't have her put on a wig, get her an outfit, get her a wig, meet at the bar, pretend like y'all strangers, and go with it. Let her pretend. Megan Thee Stallion everybody is always talking about that. Cardi always talking about that. Y'all didn't see me in how many different color wigs? How many different color hair? Role play. It's
like
okay.
Meet me at the bar. You know, I need you to dress up like Sexy Red or.
Right. You know, just like a lot of people, like I said, and too, it's about the communication. Well, I want to, but I just kind of feel, all right, let me put on somebody else's ego.
Yeah. Okay. Now it definitely makes sense with the role playing. It's like, you know, you get an opportunity to be somebody else. You're not you. You're just somebody else for the evening or whatever. Your time working with couples, have there ever been instances where a couple may have tried to go kink and then, you know, things go south after that? Maybe one of them, you know, may look at the other person differently now, like, okay, you're not the person I thought you were, or maybe it wasn't as positive experience for the relationship. Have you ever seen instances where it backfired?
Yeah.
Yeah. Break it down.
I mean, there's not a full communication. There's not full disclosure. You know, a lot of hesitation. Like one of my sessions, whenever I work with couples in my bonding with bondage, when teaching people about, you're going to switch roles. You're going to trade places. Like for real, today you're going to be the dominant, you're going to be the submissive. So that means that you have to take the time because your person on this table is going to be completely dependent on you. They can't see shit, they can't hear shit, they can barely touch shit. So you are going to be completely and utterly responsible. You have to sense if they are uncomfortable with something and how do you get them to relax their body without, you know what I'm saying, without jarring them. How can you, without having to say something to them, how do you get them to relax? How do you just be with your partner? And I think that that's a huge part of the miscommunication, is learning to be with your partner. So when things backfire, is honestly somebody's not paying attention, there's a communication, or somebody's not being receptive to what's going on. And because they can have that time where it's like, okay, well, I wasn't really into that. And that's part of taking that time. And it's like, okay, well, your partner's not relaxing. So guess what? That means your partner isn't into it. Mm-hmm. I understand that you want to do it, but they moving their booty and they don't want that little portion. It's okay. They're not into it. But you have to be receptive. And if that person if you can get that person to open up and understand that you're there with them, that then they'll kind of circle back around and feel more open and honest to try more things. So
good. I like that. I like that. Now, have you ever, I could see how, and that's the reason why I feel like this interview is so important, because you're going to have people view this and that they're trying to figure out how to get started or what are some first steps, because without proper guidance, you may have people who are been straight vanilla for so long. They're French vanilla. They're so vanilla, is blinding. And then, okay, we're going to try some kink tonight. Then somebody pulls out a knife or something like that. It's like, is there, I know, you hear, there are levels to this, like you mentioned earlier, the vibrating toothbrush, and then,
right.
taking that and bring something, is there, what would you say would be some, don't do this shit, not right now, or some don't do some don'ts? If you're starting off, you're a white belt, you got your gi, first day in class, here's some shit that you don't do when it comes to, your very, very first time introducing kink into a relationship. How would you advise a couple or an individual?
Oh shit, research.
Research.
Like, I'm not man, one of the craziest things that I've ever seen is these women get out here with them stiletto nails. And then, like, they be comfortable about poking their man in the butt. It does not play out right. Research how to open up. Research how cleaning. Let's get real. Research sanitation on all levels, front, back, side to side. Research. If you're curious about something, even as funny as it might be, watch a movie to get some idea. Just start looking at it. Don't just try to just jump in. If you ain't never double dutched,
Is that a thing?
No, double dutch.
Oh, that thing. Okay.
Dutch.
Okay.
You ain't never double dutch. You can't just, you gotta find your rhythm and get into it. So, but I always tell people, just research, just learn, and then just start doing it. And if you have a partner that is open as well, it's okay for you guys to giggle about it and be like, it's okay, it wasn't us. Mm-hmm. Or it wasn't really me finding ego. Right. Or finding a compromise. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest issues that I keep hearing is whenever I tell people that you have to find a compromise, people look cross-eyed. I don't understand, like, why people, like, finding, even as a dominant, when my submissives are on the table, if I see that something, like, I don't want to cause them distress like that. Like, I don't need that 78-year-old going into cardiac arrest because I wanted to do something,
Oh, wow.
But you
what
have
a way to go.
Right. Woo, well, maybe.
It depends.
Right. If it's a good, but if you can tell that your partner's not reacting in a positive way and it's almost like a forced, I always say, let the force be consensual. People have to understand, also that no means no. Not just for men, but for women as well. If he don't want it back, that's okay. If he's open to try it, cool, and he tries it and was like, you know what, no, that's not for me.
I'm like,
it's cool, right? Just and the same thing for her. It's not for me. Believe them when they say what it is, or you're gonna have a bad time.
It makes me think about, what was that show? Funny Emergency Room.
Oh, Sex Sent Me to the ER.
Yes, that's it. Sex.
Man.
And I'm like, okay, y'all went too far and stayed too long. How many things can be crammed up an orifice?
You'd be surprised.
I'm like, oh my, yeah. The few episodes of that I saw, I'm like, okay, y'all on some other shit, but I ain't judging.
Hey, my tattoo has disappeared before.
Oh. All right. Okay. Moving right along. You know what? I don't want to. I don't want to be rude. I feel like we've ignored Cherry for too long. What does Sherry have to say? In terms of introducing the kink conversation in a vanilla relationship. Hey, Cherry, how are you? Cherry's so nice.
But Cherry, she got a little sting to the sweetness. She got a little sting. Cherry would definitely say, especially, this can be fun. But a lot of people want to go in here like, we doing some hazing back in the 80s and school days. Do your research, because you got to learn before you go in there and start smacking bottoms. You got to warm that bottom up. This ain't like a childhood slapping, a childhood spanking that you're giving. Cherry would always say to do your research and know how to get into it. And all you can do, there's always levels. All you can do is just advance into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, always obey Cherry. Okay, Cherry knows best.
She will sting.
She will sting.
In a sweet way.
Sting in a sweet way.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. So this information I feel like very vital, and you are definitely an authority on this. I can only imagine the stories you probably encountered with couples coming in saying, "Hey, we need help," or something. Because look, I'm not shaming anyone. If you like missionary, nothing wrong with that. Missionary is a great intimate position, but sometimes you may want to take it a step further, and like you said, role play. And I thought what you said as far as using role play as a way to introduce it, I think that's a great idea, because you can always say, "Well, that wasn't me. That was my alter ego. That was my alternate persona." Right. I actually like that. And I know a lot of people, I'm hoping people are taking notes. And that includes the people in my Ringside group. If you're out there and you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, make sure you go to the top search bar and type in Ringside LLC, find the private group, and request to join, and either myself or one of the admins will admit you. But the role-playing, communication, what are some other words, some other things, because I think that is an awesome start, because something like this, you don't want to end up in the emergency room. You don't want your spouse looking at you weird, because that could be an awkward conversation at the breakfast table the next morning. But again, you want people to go into this well-informed, but also, I don't know whether to say baby steps, or it's okay to be a white belt. You don't have to go, you don't have to get your black belt on day one. You can start off small, like you said, vibrating toothbrush, and go from there. So any other, I guess, parting tips or parting advice? Because again, people are going to be taking notes. I'm going to include your social media so people can find you if they want to, come to you for guidance. What are some other parting information you'd like to share with people who, look, I want to propose to my girlfriend, will you be my dominatrix, or will you be my sub? What would you say to people who, these are some final thoughts, some final Coco Kitty thoughts?
Honestly, and I kind of want to visit back.
Excuse me, Cocky Kitty. I'm like, sometimes I call you Coco Kitty, sometimes I call you
That's okay, I am the Coco Kitty.
That's what I'm talking about.
But no, like, kind of circling back just real quick, is some of those words to remember. Compromise. Compromise. Right? Because we have to give if we want our partner to give back to us. We have to, because I'm not going to do nothing if I'm not going to get anything in return.
Reciprocity.
Right. And then two, it doesn't have to be weird. And if it feels good, if it causes, it's not weird, it made you feel good. Why does it have to be weird? And so I think that couples need to get away from that. Oh, he's weird. He didn't want her. He wanted to lick my ear. That he liked just. Some people. Some people think that doggy style is weird.
Ew.
Right.
What tribe are you from?
It's right, but that's okay. But stop thinking that everything is so weird if you enjoy it or if you want to try it. You don't have to do it again. That's also where that communication and compromise comes into. But on those parting words is just do your research. And it's okay to just get out there, meet other people. If it's not for you, it's not for you. You can always walk away from the situation.
That's what I'm talking about. So if people want to reach out to you for quote-unquote consultation and guidance, how can they get a hold of you?
That would be well-misbehave.com. So we'll have to make sure to put that in there the way that it's spelling, because it is misbehaved.
Misbehaved. Okay.
Well, misbehaved.
Okay. Well, again, I'm glad that you were able to join us in the ring today, because I know this is something that a lot of couples are struggling with. Maybe some will admit it, some won't. Some people just ride it out. I'm like, okay, I guess we're just gonna do missionary for the rest of our life, and nothing wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Hey, look, steak and potatoes, nothing wrong with that. But again, for some people, they may want to get a little adventurous, but they just don't know how, where, or what to say, and how to have that conversation. Maybe they need to find their own version. Maybe they need to go out and find a Miss Cherry, or some of Cherry's friends. Maybe Cherry's friends are gracious like her. Who knows? But again, this topic is well important. Thank you so much. You have been awesome as usual. As I know you can be. Can't wait to have you back because we got some more information we want to cover. Everyone out there, make sure you like and subscribe. Drop some comments. We can sure use them. We love to read them. And make sure you come back and view this video as much as you need. Take notes. This is Trey Amazing, Miss Cocky Coco Kitty. I've said that so many different times, but you are Cocky, you are Coco, and you Kitty, and you brought Sherry. Sherry, say goodbye. See, thank you so much. Everyone out there, this is Ringside's Corner Confessions, and we are out. Peace.